Dropped from beneath the wings of a B-52 mothership, the X-15 X-plane is the fastest aircraft man has ever flown. Even Concorde's immense speed is nowhere near that of the insane 5,140 miles per hour that this manned missile achieved back in 1967. Yes, this record has stood for over 50 years and probably won't be beaten anytime soon. But it didn't just happen. The amount of blood, sweat and tears that went into the experimental plane projects, or X-planes, is absolutely staggering, and the people who worked on them put their careers and lives on the line in pursuit of speed and progressing man to the next challenge. X-planes date all the way back to 1946, but the story of the X-15 begins later, in the 1950s. The X-15 was built to go fast, very fast. Hypersonic speed was the end goal. For instance, Concorde reached speeds of Mach 2, but the X-15 was aiming for Mach 5 and beyond, which is anywhere past 3,000 miles per hour. It was built by two companies, North American Aviation, who built the airframe, and Reaction Motors, who built the massive engines it used. Initially, a smaller engine was used in early flights, but that was just a testbed for what would eventually become the fastest aircraft man has ever flown. It used an XLR-99 rocket engine, generating 57,000 pounds force of thrust. It would burn through its fuel reserves of 15,000 pounds of an ozone-munching mix of anhydrous ammonia and liquid oxygen in just 80 seconds. Getting the aircraft in the air was done in a similar way to other X-planes of that time. It was launched from under the wing of a B-52 mothership and would then land back at a runway or dry lake bed. The reason it had to be launched in this way was because of those engines. Had it taken off from the ground, it would never have got near those speeds or altitudes because of how quickly it burned through its fuel. 80 seconds is not a long time to get you to the edge of space. For instance, it would take the Falcon Heavy almost 200 seconds to reach the Kármán line of 100 kilometers. The X-15 was also one of the first aircraft to achieve such altitude, with some of the pilots being given Air Force astronaut wings as a recognition.
Major Bob White was up before the cameras after his 136,500-foot record-breaking altitude flight.
The flight today offered, I would say, no problems and nothing that could be considered a limitation as far as man's ability to fly an aircraft.
So, it goes fast and it goes high. Sounds fun, right? Well, this is where many of the fables about the bravery of Air Force test pilots come from. You have to be extremely brave to agree to strapping yourself to a massive rocket with no off switch, and a number of flights did not go as planned at all. One flight ended with the plane essentially breaking in half. On November 9th, 1962, the rocket engine on John B. McKay's X-15-2 malfunctioned and got stuck at 30%. Unable to get the go button to work, McKay went for a forced landing at Mud Lake after burning what fuel he could. Due to the excess speed and weight, the plane needed a higher angle of attack when landing, and this extra height caused the plane to essentially break in half. What was left of the wreckage was quickly packed up and repaired to become the X-15A-2, which eventually hit that incredible Mach 6.7 figure, but not without almost killing pilot William J. Knight first, who suffered a complete electrical failure, which meant he had no power and just flew by the seat of his pants back down to the lake bed and glided down to a safe emergency landing. On November 15th, 1967, US Air Force test pilot Major Michael J. Adams was killed during X-15 Flight 191 when the plane entered a hypersonic spin after reaching the edge of space. Adams was unable to regain control and slow the plane. Eventually, the airframe broke up at 60,000 feet while travelling at Mach 3. The wreckage was scattered across 50 miles of desert. A monument was erected at the cockpit's location to remember Adams and the other lives lost in pursuit of space travel in 2004. After these accidents, the attention of governing bodies had already begun to shift away from hypersonic and experimental planes, and towards the rockets and space shuttle designs we're now used to seeing. The projects would quietly go on in the background, with a few testing different ideas and strategies, like the X-22, which looks suspiciously like the V-22 Osprey. But hypersonic planes seem to be off the menu entirely. In 2017, the X-43A became the fastest aircraft ever made, reaching a whopping Mach 9.6, which is over 7,000 miles per hour. But it was unmanned, so it broke a different record. There was a project back in 2018 called the X-59, which was designed to have a quieter and less impactful sonic boom, but even that project has gone rather quiet in the last year or so, leaving the task up to companies like Boom Supersonic to carry the torch and continue the work into supersonic and hypersonic flight that the X-15 planes pioneered.